Hello everyone and welcome back to another math video. In this video we're going to talk about solving equations by factoring. So if we have a trinomial or a binomial, some type of equation and it's equal to 0, or we could rearrange it so that it's equal to 0, then we're going to use something called the zero product property, where we can factor the equation and then set each factor equal to 0. So let's look at a few examples. In the first one, we have m squared minus m squared plus 7m minus 60. And we have that equal to 0. So our first step is to factor. So we're going to use that AC method that we talked about before. I'm trying to get my tablet to pick up the pencil here. There we go. So we have AC. It's going to be 1 times the negative 60, which is negative 60. We're going to think about all the ways you can multiply to get a negative 60. So we have 5 times negative 12. We have negative 5 times 12. And that one's going to be our answer. We're going to do our rewrite. M squared minus 5m plus 12m minus 60 equals 0. So notice those middle terms add to that positive 7m that we want. And then we're going to group the first two, factor out an m. That's going to leave us with m minus 5. Group the second two, factor out a positive 12, leaving us with an m minus 5. And then we're looking at each of those terms, and they have an m minus 5 in common. And then the leftovers are going to go in here, and that's an m plus 12. So there's our factored form, and it's equal to 0. So the zero product property says that the only way this is going to be 0 is if the first factor is equal to 0 or the second one's equal to 0. So we're going to set each factor equal to 0, and then we're going to solve those little equations. So in that first one, I'm going to solve it by adding 5 to both sides. So I'm going to get m is equal to 5. And then if I subtract 12 for the second one, I'm going to get m is equal to negative 12. So we're going to get two answers here. M is equal to 5 or negative 12. So we could always check the answer. If we were to plug 5 in here, we're going to see that we're going to get 0. And if we plug in negative 12 in there, we're going to see we're going to get 0. So we're going to get two answers for that one. Let's look at the next one. We have m squared equals negative 2m plus 120. So to solve this, we're going to have to move everything to one side. It does have to be equal to 0 because there's only one way that I can multiply and get 0, and that's if the first term is equal to 0 or the second term is equal to 0. So we're going to rearrange by adding 2m to both sides. So we're going to get m squared plus 2m equals 120. And then we're going to subtract 120. So we're going to get m squared plus 2m minus 120, and that's equal to 0. So AC method, we're going to multiply 1 times a negative 120. That's going to give us a negative 120. And you may already know what factors we're going to use. We could think about 10 and negative 12, or negative 10 and positive 12. I want the one that's going to give me the positive 2 in the middle, which is going to be negative 10 and 12. So we're going to do our rewrite step, m squared minus 10m plus 12m minus 120, and that's equal to 0. And then from the first two terms, we could factor out an m. That's going to leave us with m minus 10. The second two terms, we can factor out a 12, leaving us with m minus 10. And you can see both of those have an m minus 10 in common. And that's going to leave us with an m plus 12. So we factored it. It's equal to 0. We're going to set each factor equal to 0. So I'm going to carry on up here. I'm going to say m minus 10 has to equal to 0, or m plus 12 has to be equal to 0. I'm going to add 10 to both sides. So I'm going to get m is equal to 10. Subtract 12 from both sides. I'm going to get m is equal to negative 12. So I'm going to get two solutions again, 10 and negative 12. Let's look at the next one. We have x squared is equal to 12x. We're going to do the same thing. We need everything on one side. So I'm going to subtract the 12x. And when I do that side, 12x minus 12x is a 0. On the left side, I have x squared minus 12x. So I'm going to factor out the greatest common factor. Both of those terms have an x in common. That's going to leave us with x minus 12. And then we've got to set each term equal to 0. Now you have to be careful. That x is a term, is a factor. We're going to set it equal to 0. And then we're going to set the stuff in the parentheses, x minus 12 equal to 0. We're going to add 12 to both sides for that one to solve. So we're going to get 12 for one answer, but we're also going to have 0 for the other one, and that comes from that greatest common factor that got factored out. So we're going to have two answers. It's going to be 0 and 12. So the one warning I want to give you here is that a lot of people forget to set that greatest common factor of x equal to 0. Don't forget that. That's the answer also. Let's look at another one. We have p squared minus 8p is equal to 0. So it's going to work really similar to the last one. We're going to factor that p out, leaving us with p minus 8. And that's equal to 0. So we're going to set each factor equal to 0. So that p, that first one's going to be equal to 0. And then the p minus 8 is going to be equal to 0. And if I add 8 to both sides, I'm going to get p is equal to 8. So two answers, 8 and 0. Next one, we have x cubed minus 4x equals 0. So we're going to start by factoring out that greatest common factor, which is x. That's going to leave us with x squared minus 4. And then we recognize this as a difference of squares. That's going to factor into x plus 2 times x minus 2. So we're going to set each factor equal to 0. X equals 0, x plus 2 equals 0, x minus 2 is equal to 0. We've got one answer, x equals 0. We're going to subtract 2 to get x equals negative 2. And then we're going to add 2 to get x is equal to positive 2. So this one has three answers, 0, negative 2, and positive 2.